Oh yeah, right at 7 o'clock. They're cheering for you, Rami. All right, folks, looks like a lot of people are coming in. Hopefully you get to hear a lot of the cheering. It's a pretty cool experience of New York and hear the cheering at this hour. We'll give everyone a chance to start piling into the room. I know there's a bunch of people coming. So welcome to everyone who's already gotten in, and we'll just sit tight for a few moments while everyone else clicks in. Then we'll start with our announcements, then go to our speaker. Give a few moments of dead air, which everyone always enjoys when they're first getting into a Zoom meeting when everyone's sound. Are you on mute? What's going on? All right, I see us. We have a few call-in people. That's pretty great. You'll be able to hear it at least. Let me see. Ken is here, Joyce, Dusty. I see Andre. There's a lot of people here. I'm not going to name everybody. I'm just trying to pick out names I recognize from the meetup. I'm sure I'm going to miss a lot of you. So sorry, people. I'm not going to call out your names. There's too many for me to call out. Okay. Just another minute, and then we'll get started. Yeah. All right, folks. Yeah. What were you saying?
I was just
saying,
saying
you can
hi,
say Bubba. I was just about to call him
hi,
that
Bubba.
too. Yeah. I could see already, Bubba included, that we have people coming to us from other places outside New York, which is, while we're unfortunate that we're all quarantined, not able to join in person, it is nice that we're able to get people from all over the world now. I know we had some folks in, I believe, Michigan actually message us. We have people in DC area. We have people come from the West Coast, some people in Europe. It's late for them. We know some people from Europe coming. And as always, we always do our best to make our content available to everybody afterwards. So we'll see if we'll try to get this online and have everyone access to us. I know it's late hours in some parts of the country, or some parts of the world, I should say, people are coming in from. So thank you, everyone, for coming. So I'll get started slowly, since I know some people are still filtering in, people are trailing in. It's not like when we're in person, you can see the room being full. People can come at any minute here. So first things first, as we always do at the meetup, we have to do a little bit differently this time. But people who are regular attendees know I like to ask, who is hiring? What jobs are available? Now, of course, we can't do that. We can't have people stand up and announce that here, because that would be chaos. So if anyone wants to announce a job, if you go to our Slack team, there is a job postings channel. And if you don't know about our Slack team, actually, if Amada, if you can include in the chat a link to the sign up link on nyhackr.org. In fact, if you don't know about it, the meetup has a website, nyhackr.org. That's hack the letter R, nyhackr.org. On there, you'll find information about upcoming events. You will find the link to the Slack team, and you'll also find presentations. We have about 10 years of presentations and 6 years of videos of the meetups. So there's a topic you want to learn. You go to nyhackr.org, go to presentations, and then you search for a topic or search for a speaker. So there's lots of different ways to be able to see that information. So that's all the roundabout way of saying that if you want to talk about a job you're trying to hire, put it in the job postings channel of that Slack team. And that way we can get you some people who want a job. It's a great opportunity for people who need a job, people want to hire, and everyone comes together. So speaking of that Slack team, we created a channel called May 14-Meetup. So if you want to participate, chat with each other, that's a great place to do it, the May 14-Meetup. And if you have questions, since we can't ask questions afterwards like we normally do in person, go to that channel, May 14-Meetup, ask your question in there. Then at the end of the talk, I will ask the question to Rami, and then he will give you the answer you're looking for. So if everyone could go to the May 14-Meetup channel and ask your questions. If you can't get onto the Slack for whatever reason, you can ask it in the chat window here on Zoom. That's a little harder to check, a little harder to read. So if you can do the Slack, please do it, but the Zoom channel will be sufficient. Given the theme of our talk tonight, it's about COVID-19 again. We have a COVID-19 channel. And actually, it's funny. So last month, we had Noam here talking about analysis of COVID-19. This month, we have Rami talking about the data for COVID-19. We probably should have done that backwards, but this is the way things worked out. So now you got to get your data, and you can go apply everything Noam taught you last month. So that's the COVID-19 channel. In fact, I know I posted some of Rami's resources about a month ago. I posted it there, so feel free to jump in there and chat about today's meetup, chat about COVID-19, and join in. We have over 11,000 talented data scientists. Many of you are in bioinformatics and even epidemiology. Go in there and help each other. Let's help crack this mystery a little bit if we can. Next month, we are actually, hopefully, or if these things work out, inspired by Noam, we are going to have Gavin Simpson come talk to us all the way from, is he in Alberta, Canada, I believe? Talk to us about GAMs. GAMs appear to be this magical machine learning technique, or statistical learning, whatever you want to call it. And one of the most popular talks ever given was Noam's talk about GAMs. So now we have Gavin Simpson, who has promised to one-up Noam's talk. I just gave him that challenge. We'll see if he can do it. Speaking of other activities and other events, ERUM, the European R user meeting, I believe I got the acronym right, ERUM, was supposed to have taken place like yesterday in Milan. For obvious reasons, it's not taking place in Milan anymore, and it's going to go virtual next month. It's second week of June, I believe. I don't have the exact dates on me, but the second week of June, ERUM will be taking place. Is essentially whenever USAR is in America, which it was supposed to be this year, ERUM takes place in Milan. So it's going to be coming up in June. We'll post a link in the Slack and in the group chat for a link to ERUM. It's a really cool conference. If you want to attend virtually, you can. And cool conferences, New York R. A lot of you have been asking. The original dates were last week, this past Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. They were rescheduled to June. Unfortunately, June doesn't seem like it's going to be happening in New York. So we are looking at ways to make the New York R conference virtual in August. Stay tuned. We have a lot more information. Just this morning, my team was testing out some of the platforms we have. We were finding some really cool platforms. We're going to make this as much fun and accessible as possible. No, it's not going to have as much food as we normally do because we are distant from you. We are going to try to make it as fun as possible and as true to our spirit as possible. Many of you have been to the conference. Many of you have spoken at the conference or volunteered. You know how we try to make it such a great, fun, welcoming environment full of just liveliness. We're doing our best to recreate that in the constraints we have. So August timeframe, the New York R conference. Check it out soon. The website hasn't been updated yet. You're some of the first people we're telling about the August timeline. So please stay tuned for that. I'm really looking forward to it. I'm sad it's not in person, but I'm excited that we're at least going to bring some of the wonderful content to you. In addition to the conference, we have a series of workshops that are all going virtual. A few weeks ago, we had the STAN workshop. Going forward, we're going to have a few others. It turns out for workshops, virtual works pretty nicely. So we're going to put a few more of those. The topics are still open for people to say what they want. We have a few ideas. So let us know if there's a topic you want to learn, let us know. In the past, we have had time series. We've done machine learning. We have done GIS. We've done all sorts of things to bring to you. So if you have a topic you want to do, just let us know. DCR, which is our DC version of New York R, is still scheduled for November. We're going to see how that plays out. If the country reopens, we'll do it in November. If the country hasn't reopened yet, that's going to go virtual as well. And another thing people are aware of is that we usually do our pizza poll. And so obviously we can't do it in person, but I went out and got pizza once again from a different place. I'll continue to go to a different place each month. You can see it's been here for a little bit. I've been holding a slice for a little bit. We have good cheese lock, decent charring, it's nice thinness, good tip sag because it's a nice thin slice of pizza. So I hope everyone else has had a chance to get their slice of pizza and bring it to the meetup. It's BYOP. Everyone is enjoying their pizza here. And it's such a big component of our meetup, so I'm continuing to keep the tradition alive virtually. Well, for real, it's really going to go in my mouth. And unfortunately, we can't go to the bar afterwards like we like doing so often. So I hope everyone could join us on Slack, chat in there, and maybe have a virtual beer or a virtual non-alcoholic beverage as you choose. So with all of that, I am very excited to bring not our first virtual speaker, actually. We actually had someone from Australia speak to us one time years ago through a video chat. back before, I want to say this is 2010, we had a speaker, couldn't come to New York, so we did a video chat as just one part of the meetup. This is going to be our first, and Noam spoke virtually last month, but he's in Brooklyn. This is going to be our first of the quarantine far away speaker. I'm very happy coming from California, Rami, to talk to us more about COVID-19. So everyone please, I guess, a virtual round of applause for Rami. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jared. It's my first time I'm doing a virtual meetup that I'm presenting, so I hope it won't be too awkward. So just today, I'm going to speak about the COVID19R project, which is focused, as Jared mentioned, about data. This project is a joint effort with Amanda Dubine, which is also a member of this meetup, and with Jared Bryant. So with that, I will jump to the presentation and start to present. Okay. So the agenda for today's meetup is first I will introduce the concept of having R data package. Then we will jump to the COVID19R project. And at the end, I will show a little bit how to work with this new concept of working with the data that is not really live on the package. And at the end, we will have a Q&A. So one thing I want to start it is what I'm not. So I'm not any expert in the field. I'm not expert in epidemiologist or biostatistician, and by far I'm not expert in disease. Just to set the expectation, we are not going to talk on models. When I started to work on the COVID-19, this is something I realized in the first day, that it's better to leave the modeling part to the people that actually expert in this field. And what I am, so I'm a data scientist. I love R. I'm mainly focused on time series and statistical analysis. I'm author of a book named Hands-on Time Series Analysis with R, which is focused on forecasting with R. And also author of several R packages. Those are the one that I have hexagon, but there are more. The one on top is I guess my first package that I released the grant, TSstudio, which focusing on the tools for time series analysis, and the other two, US Grid and UK Grid, are example data packages example for time series with multi-seasonality, and the one on the corner, the right top bottom corner is the coronavirus, which is how this project started.
Hey, Rami,
so,
I'm
yes?
sorry to interrupt you, but someone just actually pointed out, we're seeing your speaker slides, your presenter notes. We're not seeing the actual main presentation.
Oops. Oh, let me. All right. Since we lost the effects, I will repeat it. Can you see my screen now?
Yep, perfect. Thank you.
Okay. Sorry about it. Technology challenges. So just for those who not familiar with the concept of R data package, so there are, I guess I categorize it into two groups of packages. The first one is probably the most popular, is a package that, data in package that help to communicate the package functionality. So if you think about it, one of the most common one is the diamond dataset from the ggplot package. In my package TSstudio, I started to gather many packages to explain some of the functionality of the package. The second type of packages are the one that just focus on provide some example or provide accessibility to data. So first and foremost is the data package that provide all the built-in data sets in R. And for example, those UK grid and US grid I created them to provide example for multi-seasonality time series data. And the other type of, the third and last is the type of packages is the one that provide data for analysis or historical events. So there are, I guess, in the epidemiology, in the biostatistics, there are a lot of examples of this type of data sets. And the idea is that you will be able to load the data smoothly to R without the need to make any adjustment, as opposed when you are loading data from CSV, then you need to reformat the data. In our package, the data is already ready to use. And technically, it's very simple to create a data package. Once you create the structure of the package, the skeleton, and you have the data, they use this package as a simple way to save the data. It's put it in the structure of the data. It's available on the namespace. And once you load the package, you can load the data and start to use it. And there are a few ways. Those are just an example of for those packages, how you create those packages or the source or the workflow. Typically, you should have a data source. It could be API, a GitHub repository, or some flat files. And then you should have some scripting files to pull the data and update the data, reformat it, and make it available. I typically use either R or a Bash script when it's more intensive. And then there are some utilities tools, such as the use this package and the test that package. And I forgot also to put here the dev tools that enable you to save the data and make sure that the data is in a good shape. And the last part, and it is something I learned recently, is automation tools that you want to add to your package. This is generally a good tool to have in a package, but especially when you have a package that you want to update it and run cron jobs or to run unit tests, you want to use some tools. For example, in this case, this is the logo of the GitHub action, which is a great tool. So what is different between the COVID-19 data package and standard R packages? So this is on the screenshot that I took from a repo that Mine Rondel created with all the resources of the COVID-19 data in R. And this is a short list of the packages that are available for the COVID-19. The main difference from normal and standard data package to COVID-19 data package, that this is an ongoing event. And I think this is the first time that while event is happening, people start to document and create the package. The second part, and something I learned in the hard way, there is uncertainty, the data keep changing. When I started to create the coronavirus package, the first month was painful when the data structure change on a daily basis. And I had to adapt the code and reformat it almost every day. Then there are data error that appear, because not always you can be sure that the source of the data reliable. And the last is that the data need to get updated on a daily basis. So if you compare this to the iris dataset, the iris dataset is the final. It will stay there forever, and you don't really care about the time. Or if you take the air passenger dataset, that it's a good academic example to learn time series. They're there and they are done. But the COVID-19 is an ongoing event, and you need to find a way to keep the data update on a daily basis. And this is just an example of the amount of effort that require. This is my GitHub commit in the last year. And you can see that since I started to work on the COVID-19 data sets, it's become very chaotic and intensive. So jumping to the COVID19R project, I thought to give a timeline and explain how it started. And the best way is when I started to think how it all started, I went to Twitter to pull the events, and I actually thought it may be useful to pull the tweets themselves. So on February 8th, I realized that there is something going on with this thing is called coronavirus, and it's become something interesting. And because I have a passion to data, I decided to try to pull it and create a package. It took me like a day to find the data on John Hopkins repo, and 4 days after, I had the package ready, available on my repo, and 2 weeks after, it was already in CRAN. Then in March, start all the issues, a lot of issues with the data. Some of the fields change. The data not always refreshed. There were some errors, and I think most of March I spent on fixing errors and updating the structure of the data pool. And there are more issues with explaining some of those errors to users, which was kind of like challenging. And then there will start to come some pull requests, and there were 2 really interesting pull requests, one from Jared and the other one from Amanda. And Jared was mainly focused on the geospatial visualization and the structure of the data, and Amanda provided air package COVID-19 US, and we tried to incorporate with the coronavirus, and then we start to realize that we don't have a common language, and there is no like a standard, and merging all of those 3 will be challenging. And then we started to talk about how can we make a uniform format. So that's how the project started, and the main goal of the project is to make the flow of the data easier and accessible. And last Friday, we actually launched it, and it's now available on the GitHub repo. So the one thing that I probably want to hope that people will take from this meetup is about the structure of the data. The goal is to make the data as tidy and uniform as possible. So the project is hosting multiple data sets from different countries, and they all use the same format. So all have the same columns, which should make sense because any data that's coming now for the COVID-19 is based on location. And we had the location code and location type in order to be able to merge the data with visualization tools, like this type of visualization. And the idea is to create data that is ready to use, that it's easy to the user to get access to the data, and to develop a contributors communities. So we created this document, and our goal that other people will join us to the effort to pull to create data packages for COVID-19. And our main goal was to set a low bar to create a package by providing as much as possible documentation and tools. So one thing to point out that we build this book down with instruction how to build your own data, what should be the unit test that you need to have, what should be the standard data format, or how to submit it to CRAN. And we have on our GitHub repository, we have an example of a template for a COVID-19 package about what should be the structure. And it's straightforward to clone it and start your own project. So far, we have about 11-ish packages in the project. The first two, the Covid19R and the COVID-R data, are centralized packages that enable you to, the way I think I want people to think about is the API that enable people to pull any of the packages that we are hosting on this project without the need to install the package. And I will show it in a second in a short demo. And then there are specific data packages like the COVID-19 New York NY Times, which is the New York Times datasets, the COVID-19 France, which is cases in France, Canada, Swiss, Italy, and this is a new package which I just had yesterday about data that came from what Apple releases recently with the mobility data. One thing that I want to go over is something that most of our users probably don't aware or don't think it as important, but I found it the hard way that this is very important, not only for a data package, but generally when you're developing package, you want to have to use continuous integration tools. I found that the GitHub Action is amazing tool to create a unit test, to structure a unit test, and also to create cron job. So now all the packages on this project are running with a cron job that enable the data to be refreshed on a daily basis and ensure that whenever you are loading, you can update the data with the most recent data. So for example, when you submit to CRAN, you typically don't submit on a daily basis. You submit once in a month or two, but you still want to get the user the most recent data, and this is kind of solve this issue. And another thing that it's important to emphasize that it's still work in progress. We started to work on it about 2 months ago. And during those 2 months, we kind of like, it took us time to understand what is the structure that we want to have, or where we want to, what is the final goal. But I think that most of it is there, and now it's just building more tools and functionality. And with that, I just go to an example. So first, this is the GitHub repository where you have all the packages in the project. The main thing to point out is the documentation, which I mentioned before, that you have detailed instruction. We're still working on it, but most of it is there. How to build a COVID-19 package. And the second part is the COVID-R package, which I will show in a minute, what it just allowed you to get all the available data set in this project and load it and in the most recent data from this repository. So this is a small example. I will just increase the font. So I'm using here the COVID-19 New York Times package. So the first thing that you want to do is install the package. And then you will see that in this package, there are two data sets. One is the state level, and the other one is the county level. And those are static data sets, and they update to the last submission. So when you pull it, and you can see that the date of the data, the last date is the submission date. The structure is following the same structure as I mentioned before. You have a date of the observation. You have the location, which is, in this case, the location type is a county state. Location code, which is using FIBS, which is a standard for a geospatial visualization of a county in the US, and the type of data. So it could, because we're using a long format, could be multiple types. So in this case, you have the total case, the total number of deaths, recovery, and so on. And the last column provides you the value that corresponding to the details in this row. Now, once the data was, the package was loaded, you can actually get the most recent data by using the refresh COVID-19 New York Times counties. What this function does is pulling the data from the COVID-R package, which is refreshed automatically on a daily basis, and it returns the most recent data. And you can see here, this is update to yesterday, the most with the data up to yesterday. And then from here, to start a summary statistic or any analysis, it's straightforward because the data is already organized, it's clean, reformatted, and it's simple. So for example, if you want to get the top 20 counties in the US with the highest case, it's straightforward with the dplyr to filter to the most recent date in the data, pull the case total, and sort it by value. So then you can get this table, and you can also do another manipulation, but it's straightforward once the data is ready to use. The other thing is, as I mentioned before, we have the component that allow you to easily create a geospatial visualization. One of the things that there are many types of geodata, and this is the reason that we added those two columns that provide you what is the type of code data that we are used in this package. And in this example, it's the FIBS, but in some other cases, it could come from our natural Earth package or different packages. And once you know, it's easy to merge the geometric data with the data itself and visualize it. So in this case, I'm using Plotly. I'm loading the FIBS county level data and creating the projection and just plot the data. And here it's straightforward. There are other cases that we, actually I can go and show it. So this package is still not fully aligned with the structure of the data, but it will be in the future. But this is an example of the geospatial visualization. Here in this case, this is the COVID-19 Italy data. There are 3 datasets available here. One is the region level, the province level, and the national level. And for the region and the province level, I'm using the geometric code that's available in the data, which I'm merging it with the geometric code that's available on the R natural earth package. So it's very straightforward to load the geometric data from the R natural earth package, create a map object, and then take this object and merge it with the data itself. And from there, it's straightforward to create the plot, the corresponding plot. So this is basically the COVID-19 project. I just want to mention again all the contributor to the packages, which is Amanda Dobbin, Jarrett Bryans, Morgan Dubas Klein, and myself. And the last thing is that we hope that others will join us for this project in order to help to get more data into R to make it accessible to other users. So with that, if there is any question, I will be happy to answer.
Right. So first, thank you very much for the lovely, wonderful, lovely, fantastic, whatever adjective you want to use, talk. Thank you. So I hope everyone's giving you a little virtual applause right now. So, of course, it's difficult to do questions when we're remote like this. So I'm going to encourage everyone to put them either in the Q&A or into the group chat or into Slack. We have a few already. So the first one is, is there any way to collaborate with a new data set? Like, how does someone with a data set get them into this project?
Yeah, so we actually, I think we have somewhere an issue that we put with the list of datasets that we hope that someone will go and help us to pull them. Let me find it. I think it's somewhere here. Yeah, so this is a list of resources that we think that is potential to incorporate in this project. If someone found a nice data set that has all the components that we are looking to have in this type of data, meaning that it's a time series with a geographic component. So it's straightforward. First thing that you need to have is a file that pulls the data from the source. So if it's a GitHub repo, you need to have a script that go to the GitHub repo, pull the necessary data, reformat it, and make it ready to use. And then the other thing, you need to follow the format of the package. So there is here the component of how to build a new package. What are the components that you need to have in terms of tools that you can use, the function that you need to have in order to be in compliance with the COVID-19R package, and so on. So I found it a very straightforward and simple process. But again, if someone have a data and he need help to build a package, we are more than happy to help with this.
And speaking
I hope I answered this question.
I think so, and I'll wait for anonymous attendee. If they chat back in the Q&A, we'll find out more. And just a note about that, from the 2018 New York R conference, actually Noam, who I've mentioned a few times already, gave a talk about data packages in R. So that might be a fun talk for anyone to go look at. It's under rstats.ai, the 2018 videos, and look for data package. That's what you can search for. And it has a whole talk about how to create a data package. That maybe want to people watch that before they do a PR. And speaking of new data, someone asked a question. Tom asked the question, has there been consideration, I guess from the core COVID-19 team there, has there been consideration about adding the Google and Apple mobility data that's been looked at some related to COVID-19?
So I know that Gerard started to work on it, and I think it's already, there is a template somewhere. Yeah. So it's still in an early step, but the idea is to add it to this package, to this project.
Great. So COVID-19 mobility, and whose repo is that in?
This is under project, one of the repos, and Jared is the one that actually maintained it. And I think it's like literally 2 days ago.
Oh, so good timing, Tom. You asked a great time to ask that question. We have a question from, I believe, from, who is this from? From John Peter Sabini. He is asking about, are there fine-grained data on the age of patients who died and the patients who got COVID? I guess, so where do we get information about, I guess, ages, and or how granular does it get, and is there any age information?
So actually, I tried to make for this meetup a package for New York data that I found that they provide this information. Unfortunately, I didn't have time, and also the feedback that I received from the other members of the team that it might not follow the format, but I will share this link. So this is official data from, I think this is, oh, not this one, sorry. There is a Office of Health of New York City that published some data, and actually they provide a statistic about the age. It's a New York Health repo. Let me pull it. Yeah, so this is New York City coronavirus data. It's provided by the Department of Health of New York City. And there is actually some nice data that is not available in other resources, such as the distribution of males and females. There is age available here by group and other, so the number of tests by zip code and so on. So it's a very, I looked at it and I thought like, this is really super interesting to do some descriptive analysis, to visualize it. If someone wants to take it as a project, we will be happy to have it in our project to bring this data.
That's a call to everyone here to jump right in there and add to it. And that actually goes to Tom's question, is help needed? And I think the answer is probably yes, right?
Yes, we are working very hard in the last 2 months, and we will be happy that, so the idea is to create a community. I would like to think about it as the kind of like the tidyverse of the corona data. That like the main idea is that to create community, that instead of each one develop its own package using a different structure, that we all use the same structure, then it will be easier to develop a supporting tool. So think about it like if you use ever the forecast package, when you created a forecast object, you're going to the base R and you can plot it with the base R, because base R know how to communicate. So I think that's what we are trying to do, to build a communication channel about the data and make sure that we utilize our resource better.
Sorry. So basically, I like that theme, the tidyverse analogy, trying to make it all, standardized. And I also like the open source mentality. If you can help, definitely help. I will say, however, about forecast, though, I switched to Fable and use autoplot to get ggplots out of it.
I know the Fable is painful so far. I'm trying to
Yeah.
get used to it. I realized I need to move to Fable, but still I'm kind of like, oh, the forecast was much more nicer, but it's a different talk.
Yep.
I think there is like a whole part in the documentation about how to submit a pull request and how to submit issue and all things. It should be somewhere here. I can share it later on, but it is straightforward. The process to what I'm trying to say is like that it is straightforward to create a package. If someone want to start to build a package, I think it's a good opportunity to learn how to build a package because it's not as complicated. The only thing that you need to build is a function that take the data from the source and clean it. This is the only requirement. And if someone want to get practice on building package, go ahead, join us.
I do like that. I do like that mentality. One function, it makes it easy, and you're welcoming people to come join you. And speaking of time series, before I get to the next question, at the meetup, we have had, I guess, both sides of the time series divide. We've had Rob Hyman, Arrow, and his team talk about Sybil and their version of time series. And we've had Jeffrey Ryan talk about XTS and his version of time series. One's tidy, one's more BaseR. So that's all available in the on the meetup. Another question actually gets back to a little bit what you said about the New York Times data. There's a question, and I don't have this person's name anymore, but saying, have you examined the difference between the New York State death data, the New York Times death data, and the Department of Health and Mental Hygiene data? And do they eventually catch up each other? Because they're saying the Department of Health and Mental Hygiene is based on death certificates and is more conservative. So have you seen those discrepancies? I'm not sure that's something you've even bothered analyzing, but have you seen any discrepancies and when they eventually catch up to each other and reconcile?
No, I did not. I was mainly focusing on the John Hopkins data. So my first package was using John Hopkins, and John Hopkins are using different resources. They're collecting worldwide. And what I saw that sometimes you get the negative values, and it's the reason for those discrepancies coming from that each country might count differently those cases, or there were some errors that they fix it. So I'm sure because we are still, I would consider ourselves in an early stage of this event. And one of the things that I learned that I hope that all those organizations are doing a better job than the way they are handling the data. Because the way most of the organization, if you think about the European Health Organization, they don't have API, they provide Excel file. The World Organization also, they provide PDFs, so people start to scrape PDF. And I think today should be a better way to maintain data by those organizations. And I think this is one of the takeaway from the data science perspective.
Yeah, I understand that. I remember I did a project for the Columbia School of Health over 10 years ago about the Hurricane Katrina deaths. You had the official death tolls from a death certificate, then you have self-reported death tolls. And there's a lot of discrepancies, and a lot of work went into trying to reconcile the two of them, because someone has a heart attack during a hurricane. Is that a death from the hurricane?
Yeah.
Is that a different type of death? A lot goes into it.
Yeah, and definitely there is discrepancy, and there's a question about the reliability of the data in some cases, that you coming from some countries that there are questions about the way that they're collecting the data or what they're considering as a death. So there are a lot of discussion, but I think this is hard for us at the end of the day to decide if this data is reliable or not. what we are trying to do is to only pull from reliable resource. And so, for example, John Hopkins, we consider the most reliable, or governmental. At the end of the day, probably even John Hopkins, when they're pulling from some countries, it's very hard to verify on a country-based how reliable is the data.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that we've that we've seen a lot of in the news. We have a conversation going on in a thread. I'm not sure there's so much a question for you as it is a comment. Alan is talking about, I believe it's probably Alan Federer, asking about it. He started to look at historical data. It's all contained in old Git commits. Each day they overwrite the data. Is there any easy way to query through old commits? So Alan, I assume you could hear me. Are you referencing the old commits for the project Rami's working on, for the New York Times data and the COVID-19 project, or are you referencing something else? I'll give Alan. He's referencing old commits from the NYC health data. That looks like there's a nice thread going on there. So rather than me trying to read the whole thread to Rami.
One of the things that I learned also in this project is how to query a GitHub API. So I think there is a way that you can actually go and get all the historical commits. And then based on the data there, you can get the number of the code of the commit and pull, do a Git pull based on the head of the commit, the code.
And there's a few R packages for working with the GitHub API. There's at least one for working with the GitHub API. And there is, I do believe the vignette for the HTTR package talks about how to use the API using curl if you don't want to use the GitHub package itself. So there's lots of opportunities to go do exactly what Rami's talking about. Another question we had was, is there data on the number of tests being done on a county level?
I don't think we have it on our dataset. I can quickly check it. But I know that it's available somewhere. I think that, let me see. So you can check the. No, it's only for this one. It's only the total cases and death. And I think one of the things that I learned while I was trying to pull data for the US is that each state report different data or different parameters that they are providing, and not all it's not any uniform. And I think I forgot what is the name of the website, but there is a website that actually gives rank for the data quality.
Oh, that sounds awesome.
Yeah, so they are actually, I think it's the COVID-R, not the COVID-R, the COVID, I can find the website, it's COVID-19 tracker. They have a Slack channel that they can find the website. I can share it later, but they have actually they are doing a good job on tracking data in the US. This is probably one of the best resources to get data from the US. And the first package that Amanda created was to pull data from this API. The COVID-19 US by Amanda is just pulling this data from there, so we can actually. I'm not sure if it's here, or maybe it's in our Git repository, but it's follow the same idea that you can pull data by state from there.
And that's in the COVID19R thing. So everything's this nice uniform place for everything. That's pretty awesome. And I do believe Amanda is attending the meetup right now. I saw her name in the Zoom attendees, and she is on the Slack, and she's a regular member of the meetup and conference. So she's a local resource as part of this team. So everyone say hi and thank Amanda when you have a chance. mean, thank
Yeah,
Rami too, but he's not from New York.
no, she has a major part of this project. I think that what's nice in this project that each one coming from a different background. She has experience in data engineering. She created all this infrastructure of the COVID-19R package she created like a API style package. So really appreciate her work on this.
So everyone, next time you see her in person in New York, if we ever see her, thank her. So this is so Israel is asking a question, and he admits it's long-winded. And I'm actually trying to see what the question says. But he's asking about data on comorbidity at the subject level for the U.S. Are there good sources for that?
I'm not sure.
That's a fair answer.
I'm not familiar. I mean, I know that I saw, I think Reuters or one of those big media agency provides some visualization about it, about mobility in the US. But
good.
I'm not sure. Like I remember trying to find the source of the data, and they didn't really provide like a API or something that can be used.
I believe it wasn't asked about mobility, but comorbidity.
Oh.
Like, I think he wants data at the subject level, basically. He's saying, is there anything non-aggregated?
I don't think, and there is probably like a legal issue to provide this data.
That's my guess.
I never saw such, beside, I think, Singapore, when I started to look for data at Singapore, it's actually on the individual, because at the beginning they have like 160 people. But I think once it's moved to massive amount of people, it's very hard to track this information, and there is a privacy issue to get this data.
Yeah, probably a lot of HIPAA issues to get this data.
Yeah.
So another question here, which is a question I guess I can answer, is there Ilya is asking, is there availability for giving a talk on asset management using XTS? So I'm not sure about asset managed directly, but Jeff Ryan did give a talk last year at the meetup. So if you go to nyhackr.org and search for Jeff Ryan, he gave an XTS talk. And if someone wants to give an asset management talk, message me. That's the way this works. You come up with an idea, you have to do it. A question from Kevin is, do you have population count by county or state?
I don't have, I mean, I don't have directly on this package, but I know it's available on the US Census Bureau that you can actually, someone actually pinged me about it. I can't find it, but there is somewhere that they have a shape file that has this information about the population, the amount of people, or some more economical data by county. So this data, I believe, is available, and actually it will be nice analysis to merge those data and see if there are some insights about it.
And there are at least 2 R packages for getting census data. I believe one's called Census API and one called Tidy Census. And I believe there's even a third package, which the name is escaping me. So yeah, you have multiple chances to get census data, which would handle that. We have a question. This is actually not a question, but it's a point of reference from Pete, talking about the IMHE, the UW forecasting group. They provide estimated infections at the state level, not sure about the county level, and they probably do it for other countries. And infections is probably a good basis to use when evaluating death rates. That wasn't so much a question, but I think more of a comment. Unless you have an opinion on that, Rami.
So I thought about so the reason that I started to pull this data, I was interested because I'm coming from time series background, and I was interested to see if maybe I can forecast some trend or something like this. But like literally the day after I pulled the data, I realized that I don't have enough domain knowledge, because my opinion that, and I think that also Noam Ross mentioned it on his talk, that the way that the pandemic work is different from It's not like a human behavior that it's easy to forecast. There are other parameters that, unless you have them, it's very hard to model. The density of the population and when you put the shelter in place and other factors. I see it like it's like forecast the stock market. You don't have enough information to do it, so don't do it.
Yeah, that's what you're supposed to forecast the volatility. Come on. Let's go get some
volatility is
Garch
something
models.
else.
Get a
Yeah,
Garch
but
model going.
I know they never worked. If they were working, so probably some people were very rich now.
Yes, oh, some are. Then we have someone actually commenting on that. Would the World Bank be a great source of getting national populations? The World Bank, and believe it or not, the CIA fact book has a lot of that type of information. And probably the World Bank has to have that somewhere too. We have a question from John saying, is there funding for this, and does it need funding for, I guess, the COVID-19 project?
So we don't have funding. We just 3 people that just decided to contribute to the open source. One of the things that we talked about that if we will get funding, maybe we can put it in some place like AWS and create like API that will be easy to get the data. One of the things that I did in my package when I started, I created also for each packet a CSV file that it will also enable other users that are non-R user to get access to the data. Because I think it doesn't matter if you're using R or not, even if you, anything. Make the data accessible and make awareness for this data. I think it's important. It's a good reason.
Absolutely. Okay. So then we have a question. Let me pull it up. Oh, it's actually not a question. It's a comment from Amanda saying the COVID tracking API, the code to wrap it, is under AE Dublin / COVID-19 US. But she said maybe we should transfer ownership to COVID19R. Just a comment. I'll relay it to you since you can't read things too quickly.
I think that the idea is that people will come and contribute. They can put it in their repo, and we just need to have the structure that allow us to. Once you have the structure, we can add it to the COVID-R package. And I think actually she's right because I think it should be somewhere here. Here. Yeah, so it doesn't need to live in the COVID-19R repo, a project. It could be on your own repository, but as long as it's running the same format, we can pull the data and have it available on the COVID-R data package.
Great. So I'd say you don't even need to transfer ownership, Amanda. That makes it easier.
No. Yeah.
Yuri was responding to William saying, yeah, the World Bank has excellent info. And William actually has another question. Is there any information about when there were state and national lockdown dates? Like when did each state and country decide to lock down their population?
I'm sure there is somewhere. I'm not familiar with like one place that you can get for all the states. I think that the COVID tracker might have some more information. It's a good resource for the US. It's a project that is by far much massive than what we are doing. We are 3 people there. There are like hundreds of people working on it, and they are doing a great job to collect data. So they might have this. Someone probably should have. It's also another interesting data to like run descriptive analysis, see like the relationship between the shelter in place and the infection rate or something like this.
That would be, and that's not a continuing. Well, it's not supposed to be a continuing data set. Like the lockdown is one point in time. We might have a second round of lockdowns later on, but it's not something they need to update. So if someone could just find that, it could be a CSV that never gets touched again until we get the a rebound back in the fall. All right. Yuri also responded to William that IMF has a lot of good data. It's not just about population, but about COVID-19 in general. The IMF has a lot of information. I'm not sure that there's been talk about including that in your project.
So Until now, we're focusing on to get the structure. We have like the example that's available there, which is the France that Amanda, COVID-19 France, which Amanda built, the New York Times, state and county. There is a Canada that Morgan is the first one that contribute to this project. And there are coming the Swiss and Italy. But we were mainly focused on creating the structure, which took us a lot of time. And it's still something that we are testing, where to host the data and have the ability to pull it really fast and update. I think this is the major effort that we had in the recent few weeks. And we hope that setting these tools will enable other people just create packages with data without having to go through all this process.
That's a very good point. You want to make it as quick and seamless.
Yeah, and I think like we also, when we started to talk, the next steps probably would be to create package that support data visualization. There are a lot of visualization that are now seems like are very unique to the COVID-19. That once the data has the same structure, it is very easy to create one function that you take the data, no matter if it's a France, a US county, or anything, as long as the parameters are the same, that you can point to them and get some visualization. So I think this is one of the next steps. Shiny, we talked about creating a Shiny app or stuff like this, but this is kind of like when the data part will be at least the stable state.
So I have to ask that question. Do you have a timeline for when you think you're going to do it?
Unfortunately, no, because it's more like a weekend project.
Yep.
At the beginning, when we were in normal routine, I had more time on the afternoons when I finished the work. After the shelter-in-place started to take place, it's much more challenging to work during the day. And working now, it's more like intervals between kids and free time. And so now it's literally strictly like something that I'm focusing on weekends. But that's what we hope that other will join us and contribute to the effort.
Yes, and I want to echo that again. Everyone who here has the ability, the time, the interest, do contribute to this. Everyone knows this meetup's all about open source, and the more contributions open source, the better, particularly something as important as this right now. So I'd like to encourage all the members to contribute as much as they can whenever they can within their abilities. One more, there's a comment from Rajan talking about there are 538 visualized population lockdown dates. So that means they got the data somewhere. So the raw data is available, but maybe they could have actually just compiled it by hand, because they could have had an intern go and collect 200 pieces of information. Could have done that in a day. That's my guess what they did, but the data, if not, you could copy it from 538. get it from there somehow. Yeah. All right, so I think that is all the questions we had. So I just want to give a big virtual round of applause. You won't be able to hear us, but at least I'll clap into my microphone for Rami for the great talk. Thank you very much for being here. Thank you for coming all the way from the West Coast to speak at our New York meetup.
My pleasure, and thank you for having me here.
Absolutely, we're very happy. I was very happy when you agreed to talk. I was very excited about that.
And again, if anyone have questions and want to contribute, please feel free to contact me. I'm in the Slack channel, or you can email me, or any other method, Twitter or something like this. But we encourage people to come and join us.
Yeah, and I think that's a very key takeaway here more than ever. We always highly encourage everyone to go get involved, contact them. I know both Amanda and Rami are in the COVID-19 channel on Slack. And like you said, there's other ways to get in touch with them. So as we are closing up here, I just want to remind everyone, June will be announced shortly as soon as we get a date locked down. Be sure to check out ERUM in Italy. Be sure to check out NYR in New York in August. And stay up to date on Slack and the mailing list for other events. We have a lot coming, a lot of cool things. We're going to do as much as we can during the lockdown. And one day we'll see each other again in person. But until then, we're going to keep getting distant speakers to speak, otherwise we wouldn't have the opportunity to join our group. So a very big thank you to Rami once again for speaking. Hope everyone has a great night. Enjoy your pizza wherever you may be. Enjoy the rest of your evening or day or midnight, wherever you are. Everyone have a great one, and we'll see you next month. Bye.
And also wanted to mention the pizza tours.
Oh, yes. Oh, my goodness. So sorry. I forgot the Amada. Thank you very much. Yes, before everyone leaves, everyone knows how we are obsessed with pizza in this meetup, and we have our pizza poll. Well, since we can't get much pizza lately, Scott's Pizza Tours, so people know I'm a big fan of, is sponsoring this month's meetup, and I forgot to mention it. If you want to take a virtual pizza tour, you get 25% off by using code NerdsLovePizza. So that's a great user code. It's Scott's Pizza Tours. For anyone who doesn't know that, some know me, I used to be one of the tour guides there. So when I wrote my thesis about pizza, people would give it to Scott. So we're very excited that he was sponsoring our meetup this month. And because we love his tour, and the virtual one's actually pretty cool. You don't get to eat any pizza, you get to learn a lot about pizza, which is the whole point anyway. So even though you're not getting your dose of pizza from the meetup, go to Scott's Pizza Tours. They're really cool. I personally vouch for them, being a former attendee and a former tour guide. I really love them. With that, thank you, Amada, for reminding me of that. That's very nice. Oh, John loves Santa Casa. Santa Casa is a great place, John. Yes, it is. I hope everyone else, tell me where you've been getting pizza lately. I need to hear this. I'm having withdrawal from all the good pizza places. And I know, Rami, you probably don't have any good pizza on the West Coast. That's just the way it is. And don't tell me Delfina. I don't want to hear it. It's fine for the West Coast. But all right. Yeah, if you have a place, I want to hear it.
I'm making it home.
All right. Well, oven's never going to be hot enough. But I appreciate making it home. I do try occasionally too. All right. So thank you very much. Yeah. I want to see a photo of your pizza now.
I will send.
Great. Thank you. And everyone else, send photos of your pizza to the Slack channel. Why not? That's part of our meetup.
Yeah. And thank you, EcoHealth Alliance, for providing the Zoom link.
Yes, and thank you, Amada, for making sure I remember to thank everyone who's sponsoring us. So those of you, I've mentioned his name so many times, but Noam has been critical here in helping us out. The Zoom link is provided by EcoHealth Alliance, like they did last month. It's a big help to us managing to get so many people on a Slack channel in such good quality, in a Zoom conference, such good quality. So thank you very much, EcoHealth Alliance in general, and Noam in particular for making that happen. Thank you very much. And thank you, Amada, for reminding me of all these things I was supposed to have said.
Thank you for organizing the meetups.
Thank you. And with that, I will send everyone home to go get dessert. I have some water ices waiting for me. I'm going to go dig into that. And hope everyone has a wonderful time. And be in touch on Slack. Be in touch. Contact us. Just let us know what's going on. Thank you, everyone, for being here. Have a great night or day or evening, depending where you are. And thank you, Rami, again.
Thanks, Rami. Thanks so much.
Thank you.